The Roads to Carbon Neutral, presented by TotalEnergies.
Hello, I'm Emma Crosby. Welcome to The Roads to Carbon Neutral. This series examines how countries, companies and communities have set a clear goal to tackle climate change and achieve net zero carbon emissions by the second half of this century. In this final edition of the current series, we look towards the future and explore how all stakeholders across society are working together to reach one crucial common goal: achieving carbon neutrality. Coming up. From business leaders and key workers to the next generation of sustainability champions, we meet the people leading the way in the fight against climate change.
We are massively relying on artificial intelligence and IoT to reach faster carbon neutrality.
Reporter Emmeline Nsingi-Nkosi visits an innovation hub which is developing digital solutions set to accelerate decarbonisation.
Plus, I'll review how countries are committing to net zero between now and 2050.
And contributors from across the series share with us why and how they think we can reach carbon neutrality as a society.
The climate change is a global challenge. Investing in the energy in these emerging countries is part of what we do when we say together with society.
First, let's take a look at what's been achieved over the last couple of years, as well as the challenges ahead. To assist us, we've gathered a panel of leading global experts to discuss the next steps we must take together to achieve the crucial goal of net zero emissions. The last 2 years have seen major global challenges as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's also been a period of unprecedented growth for renewable energy sources. In fact, the share of renewables in the global electricity mix is expected to reach an all-time high of 30% this year. Looking at the achievements per sector is encouraging. Wind power expansion almost doubled in 2020 compared to 2019, thanks in part to continued investments in offshore and floating turbines. Total solar capacity has now reached almost the same level as wind, putting wind and solar on track to match global gas capacity by 2022. Hydropower projects totaled 21 gigawatts in 2020, up from 15 gigawatts the previous year. Looking at the transport sector, global sales of electric cars accelerated fast in 2020, rising by more than 43% to more than 3 million. And the continued upsurge of hybrid energy systems, which can combine traditional fuels with renewables, are further accelerating the transition towards clean energy solutions.
The real challenge to overcoming and moving this energy transition forward is going to be the decarbonization of our electricity grid. 30% of our emissions today are tied to our electricity grid through fossil fuel and carbon-intense sources. We need to find a way to get to that zero state.
While this progress is encouraging, we have a long way to go to reach carbon neutrality. The International Renewable Energy Agency has warned that renewable power capacity will have to expand more than tenfold by mid-century to avert catastrophic climate change. The decisions we make now will determine the course of the next 30 years and beyond.
So just reducing emissions in your backyard will not get you there, because if somebody else is still emitting somewhere else, you will still feel the impact of climate change.
Countries are continuing to make climate commitments to lower their emissions. Emmeline Nsingi-Nkosi tells us more.
Between now and 2050, here's how the world is committing to net zero. Uruguay is modifying its energy mix with the aim of achieving carbon neutrality in under 10 years from now, while Finland plans to be carbon neutral by 2035. Iceland, which generates the most clean electricity per person in the world, is on target to reach net zero by 2040, along with Austria. Germany is matching Sweden's 2045 ambition as new low-emissions industries are expected to flourish by this year. And then we hit that crucial year 2050, when all EU members, the US and Japan, together with almost 100 other countries, have set a target to reach net zero emissions. However, China, Kazakhstan and Ukraine believe that 2050 will be too early and have instead pledged to get there by 2060, while India has recently revised its net zero pledge to 2070. This means that 50% of the world's GDP is now covered by net zero commitments. But the race to reach carbon neutrality doesn't start on an equal footing. Asia, which is home to over 60% of the world's population, is by far the largest emitter of CO2, accounting for 53% of global emissions. But these major economies are quickly moving to the center stage of the clean energy transition. China is in fact already the world's largest market for renewables and added 136 gigawatts last year.
So we have to bear in mind that in Asia, close to 93% of our primary energy use is very much focused on fossil fuels. And it's not just any transition, we need to have a just transition. We have to focus on a strategy to upskill the current workforce that is currently in the fossil fuel industry and to ensure that they will continue to have jobs.
Developing nations are also improving their access to energy by investing in renewables. Africa has a goal of achieving a 52% renewable energy mix by 2030. It's not just governments that are committed to net zero. Companies are continuing to make their own climate pledges, with some businesses aiming to reach neutrality ahead of the mid-century target.
Businesses will play a critical role in that transition, but certainly we're going to need that political leadership to come forward to allow those markets to open up the regulatory structures and make that transition together with business leadership.
Environmentally conscious consumers are playing their part too, by opting for electric vehicles, renewable energy for their homes and sustainable brands. Global recycling rates are also continuing to increase. A recent survey by Deloitte shows 61% of consumers in the UK cut back on single-use plastic last year.
The pandemic has shown us all that we need to be much more nurturing and caring of the nature and the lifestyle around us. And I do believe that more than ever, we are not going to be able to make the transformations that we need to make, whether it's in the energy system or in the circular economy or anything else, without ensuring that we keep society and consumers in the loop.
Governments, businesses and everyday consumers are working together, but they must keep building on this momentum to ensure a new, more sustainable era.
You know, we can't just be shouting about wanting to achieve net zero, carbon neutrality, without having a clear strategic plan as to how we intend to get there.
We need to move away from thinking of it as a society of deprivation and of sacrifice, and one in which frankly, it's a brighter, more livable, safer, and healthier world for us to exist in.
I believe we will achieve success if we all work together. Governments, public actors, the private sector across the globe. You, me, everyone.
World leaders, CEOs and activists met last month at the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, also known as COP26, to share ideas, initiatives and new approaches. The United Nations holds this annual conference to assess progress in dealing with climate change. We went to COP26 to learn more about some key themes and topics which were being discussed.
It is said that what Paris has promised, Glasgow must deliver, so now we are 5 years on from Paris. It's about time that the rule book and all the related, let's say, mechanisms and tools are clarified.
What stands out to me this year is the real economy has come to the COP. It's no longer just the negotiators talking about rule books. It's companies, it's banks, investors who have come here to say, how do we make net zero or carbon neutral happen?
People are starting to understand that we have to scale in a complete different way, and we have to do it faster than ever before, because time is not a luxury we have.
And to get there are two key areas that we have to make progress, and one is on cleaning transportation. The second area is clean energy. So we have to now look into clean energy beyond clean electricity. We have to look into clean hydrogen, liquid ammonia, synthetic fuel.
Here at COP, there's been a number of commitments. No more deforestation by 2030, cutting methane emissions by 30% by 2030.
Let's go for that clean energy transition, powers jobs, powers economies, powers lives.
Is the fact that people are now really understanding that we have no time left.
COP26 key motto is working together to deliver. And this is exactly what world and business leaders must do in order to deliver change for the sake of our planet.
Thanks, Emmeline. Next, let's put a spotlight on what leading a business looks like in a world racing towards net zero. Companies across all sectors are having to reassess how they do business, from more sustainable operations and supply chains to internal practices. TotalEnergies has set an ambition to get to net zero emissions across its global operations by 2050, together with society. I spoke with TotalEnergies CEO Patrick Pouyanné, along with other industry leaders, about their business strategies and approach to achieving their goals.
We announced last year that we want to get to net zero. And the only way to do it, as we are a major oil and gas company, is in fact to embrace new energies, renewable energies, because the energy markets are changing. But we want also to become one of the top 5 renewable producers by 2030. And so moving from Total to TotalEnergies, the name says everything, by the way, describes the strategy, all energies, by all our people.
Being a socially responsible company at IBM has been in our DNA from the very beginning. We set a goal 50 years ago, back in 1971, publishing our first environmental policy document. IBM as a company in its own right has set itself a goal of being net zero by 2030. When you look at our manufacturing operations, a lot of work has gone into packaging, recycling of materials to really drive down our carbon footprint.
We're lucky that rail is already a very green mode of transport. We've recently announced that we have managed to reduce our emissions by 30.5% across our business in the last financial year. And that has meant looking at things like solar panels on our roofs.
We have what we call our own emissions, what we call the Scope 1 and 2. And we have a strong first target by 2030. We want to diminish our emissions by 40%. Then we have the other part, which is the Scope 3 emissions. It is the emissions of our customers. We cannot do that alone. Okay, we can influence, we can work with our customers to decarbonize their needs. A lot of our customers have their own commitment to go to net zero. So it's a question of win-win.
I believe that electrically powered trains are definitely the way forward, fitted with batteries. Some of our trains have diesel engines and they can be retrofitted with the battery technology fairly quickly. Now the benefit of that is that you can start running electric trains on routes that aren't electrified immediately, and over the next few years enables us to quickly remove fossil fuel powered trains from the network.
Recently we have announced a perfect example of transition in Iraq. We went to Iraq and announced a huge project which is solar plant, 1 gigawatt, so eliminating some emissions from gas to produce electricity and also some oil. And we think that the model of multi-energy, a broad energy, can be applied and will answer to, in fact, the demand from many countries, emerging countries on this planet.
AI is all about helping us make sense of extreme amounts of data to gain the necessary insights that allows us to drive action. Are you running equipment for too long? Are you occupying buildings effectively? Do you actually even understand your own supply chains?
And we can use some competencies that we have in the house. Floating offshore, a new frontier in terms of offshore wind. We have plenty of engineers, we know all about what it is, a floating platform. So this one also, we have built a team to transfer them, okay, use your knowledge to design some floating offshore wind platforms.
2030, which is the year many countries have focused on carbon zero, isn't far away, and it's in the lifetime of some of our products right now. So it is important we start to focus on the journey to that.
This, in its core, is about changing the world for everyone. And then you're able to bridge it up to it actually becomes a business imperative because it speaks to the environment in which we can operate as businesses.
So the question is first to invest heavily to make this new system, but there is no way to make it and at the same time to diminish too quickly the existing system. So that's the transition. That's what we need to do together. And TotalEnergies is ready to contribute to it at all levels.
With the continual investment in and growth of renewable energy infrastructure comes the need for a new skilled workforce. Jobs in the renewable energy sector reached 11.5 million worldwide last year, led by solar PV, closely followed by the biofuel sector. This new workforce will require a diverse mix of skills from scientists and engineers to technicians and data specialists. We met some key workers whose daily roles are helping to decarbonize the planet.
My name is Penelope Bagiorgu and I am the operational engineer of TotalEnergies wind farm since the end of 2019.
My name is Enzia Schneider and I've been an associate strain development scientist at Deep Branch for the last 8 months.
My name is Kim Zhang. I am an energy storage system engineering manager for 13 years at SAP.
I joined the company for the construction of the Achladotopos wind farm and its additional infrastructures.
When I tell people what I do, I tell them, oh, I'm in this startup that converts carbon dioxide into animal feed, and everyone's like, wow, I just didn't even know that you could do that.
I'm responsible to manage the production process of energy storage system batteries at each stage, such as design monitoring and product manufacture.
I'm working in the strain development team, and there we're just trying to get the best possible strain for our purpose to make good quality feed in an efficient manner. We will need to use carbon capture, so if we're capturing it, we might as well use it to produce useful things.
The wind farm is like a small child that always needs attention. Therefore, I monitor online its performance and detect any continuous alarms. I coordinate and supervise preventive and scheduled works based on weather conditions, and I report the wind farm's monthly performance.
In my university, I studied safety and environmental issues in all industrial aspects.
I knew I wanted to work in the realm of environment.
I studied as an electrical engineer with my main course focused on energy. During that time, renewable energy resources was the new innovative technology that could displace fossil fuels, so I wanted to work in this field from the beginning of my working career.
Renewable energy companies can use our energy storage solution to store and manage power output. This is an important step in introducing renewable energy to fight against climate change. I'm proud to be a part of this.
I think it's one of the best things that I can do with my particular skill set to help the environment, and that's a good feeling, definitely.
I'm very proud to be along in the journey towards carbon neutrality.
Digital tools such as the Internet of Things, machine learning and AI are collecting and analyzing important data to help accelerate decarbonization across numerous sectors and industries. In early 2020, TotalEnergies opened a digital factory in Paris that brought together up to 300 developers, data scientists and other experts to accelerate the company's digital transformation and to improve operations and the environmental impact of its customers. We visited this hub of innovation to meet the specialized workforce who are developing digital solutions for the future.
My name is Jeremy Darshi. I'm working as a technical leader at TotalEnergies Digital Factory. We are innovating because today we are understanding energies. The Digital Factory is the innovation center of TotalEnergies Group and supposed to boost our innovation at the group scale, but also to reach faster carbon neutrality. We are massively relying on artificial intelligence and IoT to be able to predict what's going to happen during which kind of process we are trying to monitor. And the overall idea is that we try to be more efficient over time. So we're talking about renewable powers, regular powers, we're talking about consumption, production, optimization of existing process. So for example, we have a very cool hydrogen project we're connecting right now. From this project, we were able to manage to understand better and learn about how does hydrogen behave. We start a huge deal with Air Liquide that is supposed to help us reduce by 650,000 tons per year by 2030 of CO2 emissions. So the role and the skill set of people at TotalEnergies Digital Factory are very broad. It goes from engineers to experts of energy to front-end engineers, data scientists. It's very diverse.
My name is Gayle. I'm a data coach. I'm a proxy between the business people and the data scientists.
My name is Svetlana. I'm a data scientist. I'm working with my team on different digital tools.
My name is Najat. I'm a data scientist. My job is to help experts to assess the feasibility of their data products. So building data products is like a relay race, meaning that a product basically starts in the data studio, so it's my team and Gayle's team, where we assess the feasibility of the product, and if everything seems okay to develop the product, then we go to a phase that we call the build phase, which corresponds to teams like Svetlana's team.
We developed an energy consumption prediction tool to forecast the electricity and gas consumption in refineries.
We also had an interesting exploration. It was for people working on offshore platforms where they have a lot of machines working, etc. And they wanted a tool to visualize and monitor specific key metrics to help them just monitor their CO2 emissions.
TotalEnergies is a main energy actor, and decisions we make have a huge impact. The tools we've developed get us closer to green and optimized energy.
Today the world is facing big environmental issues, and we need to develop efficient tools to tackle those challenges. And we believe that data science is one of them.
Data is not anymore just important, it's critical. Basically, this is what is allowing us today to learn about our environments. So data is key.
Climate influencers and the next generation of sustainability champions are ensuring that the climate challenge stays front and centre on the global agenda. We met some of these young influencers who are making a difference.
How did I become a climate change advocate?
I became a climate advocate due to my experiences while growing up.
Every morning when walking to school, the skies would be filled with grey haze.
The fact that flooding was very much common.
So I was very fascinated about all those problems.
Imagine the planet is trapped in a microwave. This was what I heard when I was in primary 5 doing a project on climate change.
I quickly swung into action and started using radio to engage in productive dialogue on the climate crisis.
This shocking imagery was ingrained in my mind ever since.
I became a child radio reporter and eventually had over 2 million weekly listeners.
That was when I became a climate advocate.
How am I helping to make a difference?
I co-founded FAIR Hong Kong back in 2015 when I was 18.
TotalEnergies was founded in making sure that we reduce or cut down community dependency on the forest.
I became a UNICEF Child Climate Ambassador in Zambia, helping elevate the voices of children and young people.
We grew from a team of 3 to 30 passionate youths, advancing sustainable tourism in Hong Kong through our ecological and geological tours.
We educate my community on sustainable energy consumption and practice.
We mobilized over 1,200 young people from across Zambia who eventually became child ambassadors. Now, when I meet some of them, they're thriving.
We've been able to work with 150 households and as well as 15 schools
to promote low-carbon local tourism.
Why is it vital for the younger generation to engage in climate action?
We are living in a world of tokenism, and that needs to stop. We need young people to be engaged genuinely.
We are the leaders that will take over in the next few years.
And governments and businesses should think about investing in young entrepreneurs that are reducing carbon emissions.
Investing in youth education so we have enough ESG experts for the future.
Defining your own future and the future for your kids.
Regardless of our race, gender, ethnicity.
So young people are the future, and it's non-negotiable not to involve them.
Across the series, we asked our impressive array of influential global experts and thought leaders if they are optimistic about reaching carbon neutrality by 2050, and if so, how they think we can get there. Here's what they had to say.
Are we going to reach net zero? Well, as of today, we are not on track to hit the global warming limits that were set out in the Paris Agreement. So much more needs to be done.
Carbon neutrality
is not a question or a choice. It's mandatory for us as humankind on this planet with limited resources.
It's a scientific problem, it's an engineering problem, it's an economic problem, it's a social problem.
It's not only being neutral by 2050, it's a step-by-step process with improvement at each step.
We are living a revolution. Who had predicted that we could have the level of penetration of renewables that we have today?
Wind is proving itself already as one of the only available, affordable, mature, and scalable answers to the climate crisis.
We have to increase fourfold this increased capacity of solar.
But solar won't be enough. We will also need clean energy, large storage.
I'm very optimistic about full whole-scale decarbonisation of transport. Will it happen in 10 years, 20 or 30 years? I'm not too sure, but it will happen.
One of the major trends is going to be different fuels. So it's not just going to be batteries, it'll be potentially hydrogen, it'll be biofuels.
If we can deploy carbon capture, utilization, and storage, then we have a chance. We have a chance to get to net zero.
So the technology plus the on-the-ground capability is what has been missing. It exists today. It needs to be developed.
What we need are rules that are making those green technologies attractive to entrepreneurs and investors.
I would like all these governments to come together and put our planet in the right direction to a sustainable energy future.
We have to transform all the energy that we are consuming, and we need to do it for the sake of the planet.
I'm optimistic because of what I see happening around me every day.
When I see the number of countries that are now pledging to reach net zero by 2050, I think that we're going in the right direction.
Climate change is a global challenge. Investing as well in the energy of the transition in these emerging countries is part of what we do when we say together with society.
Those final encouraging messages give us hope that together we can achieve carbon neutrality with global action, ingenuity and forward thinking. Thank you for watching the latest series of The Road to Carbon Neutral. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of our global journey towards a net zero future. If you'd like to find out more, please visit roadstocarbonneutral.com. Goodbye. Roads to Carbon Neutral, presented by TotalEnergies.